Welcome back to the channel. Today we're in the kitchen doing something a little different. We're going to bottle some crabapple wine that we've had sitting for better part of a year. We started making it August 17th, 2021. It's now, early December 2022. It's been sitting in the bottle since September of 2021, so it's not going to need to be filtered. It has settled out. It's been racked a couple of times. I'll talk a little bit about how we make crabapple wine as we go along. While we're doing some of the mundane things like washing bottles and sterilizing bottles. We're going to go through the 3 steps of bottling. We're going to wash and sterilize the bottles. We're going to fill the bottles. And then we're going to cork the bottles. I've already filled the sinks. I've scrubbed the sinks and filled the sinks. Got the sterilizing solution already. The drying rack has been rinsed and prepped. I've washed out the filling hose. I've got the vanometer set up so we'll know how much alcohol's in it. Let's get started. Thanks for watching. Thanks for coming back to the channel. So when I wash bottles, I stick 4 of them in here first. We'll let them fill up. These have been washed when they were put away, and they've been stored upside down in the box. So all we're really doing is knocking the dust off of them, cleaning out whatever's climbed inside. That's not much. So what I do is I take a bottle out of the box. It goes in on the left as I pull one out on the right. Give it a shake. Rinse off the outside. Drain it. Give it a rinse. Goes on the sterilizer. And then it goes on the drying rack. Bottle goes in on the left. Bottle goes out on the right. It gets a shake. And a wipe. Drained, rinsed, sterilized, onto the drying rack. So, I'll do a voiceover of how we make wine, or crabapple wine, while I'm doing this. You can listen to me do the voiceover while I do this. In our area, crab apples come ripe roughly in the middle of August. We'll pick about 25 to 30 pounds of them, bring them home, wash them up, cut them in half. The best couple of pounds we'll save for jelly and sauce. Anything that's buggy and bruised will go to the chickens. That usually leaves us with about 15 pounds that we can freeze in 2-pound blocks for a couple of days. That breaks up the cell structure. When they come out of the freezer, we'll put them in a mesh bag inside a 6.5-gallon plastic pail. We'll add to that about 4 kilograms, 9 pounds-ish of white sugar, and we'll let that thaw overnight. Late that next day, we'll add water to bring it up to the 20-liter mark in the pail. 20 liters is 5 gallons? To that we'll also add 3 teaspoons of pectic enzyme and let that sit overnight again. We'll then stir it twice a day, morning and night, for the next 4 days while it sits in the plastic pail. At the end of that, it'll have a potential alcohol content of about 10%. We'll pull the bag out at that point, add enough water to bring us back up to the 20-liter point, and whatever sugar it takes to bring us back up to a 10 or 11 potential alcohol level. It'll then spend, the better part of another week in that plastic pail. and then at that point we'll rack it to 20-liter glass carboy to let it sit for another, well, till the end of that month, at which point it'll get racked into a second carboy just to get rid of the lees, and then we'll rack it every 4 or 5 months for the next year, year and a half, whatever, and then we'll bottle it like you're seeing today. And that is 31 bottles washed, rinsed, and sterilized and put on the draining rack. Anyway, hope you enjoyed the voiceover on that segment on how we make the crabapple wine. We'll set up for bottling next and get on with that tedious process. So now we're ready to do the bottling. What we're going to do is put some bottles in our recycling bin. It's plastic, it's waterproof. If I spill, it won't get all over the floor. Hopefully. We'll see. Anyway, we have our siphon hose here. It has a cap on the end that prevents it from sitting on the bottom, so that when we do tip the bottle or the carboy, the sediment doesn't get sucked up. It'll end up in the last bottle anyway, and that's what we'll use for testing. We will tip the bottle eventually. I'll put that under one corner so that the bottle tips away. The hose sits in it on an angle, and we can finish it up that way. This is the filling rod for filling the bottles. Let's get a clear one here. When you put it in the bottle, it has a little tab on the bottom. I'll get you a shot of that separately. And that tab runs a valve so that when it's up, it will let fluid out. When you pull it up off the bottom, the fluid won't come out. And this hose takes up exactly enough room in the neck of the bottle to be the headspace you need for putting a cork in it and letting it sit. So let's get set up, see how things go. Oh, I normally prefer the clear bottles for the clear wines like crab and rhubarb, but I don't have enough, so we're using green ones. The clothespin just keeps it up off the bottom until we get down that far. And that's the last of it. So we ended up with 25¼ bottles. We normally get 25, which I would have remembered had I bothered to look at the top of the carboy. And we ended up with a ¼ bottle because I wasn't paying attention when I was filling, and well, some of it didn't go in the bottles. Some of it went in my sock because that recycling bin wasn't waterproof either. Anyway, let's run the venometer test and see how she's doing alcohol content wise. I have to wait for 3 drops to come out the bottom, and then we flip it over. 1, 2, and yeah, I shake because I'm old. 3. I'll bring you in, we'll see if I can tell how much. It's a hard scale to read, probably going to be really hard to photograph. So 12%, that's not a bad outcome. Yeah, so we've got a 50 pack of the synthetic corks, and we're going to do the corking. To do that, we drop a cork in the top, take a bottle, put it underneath, make sure it's lined up, and just squeeze the handle. And that's all it is. Drop the cork, take a bottle, line it up, and squeeze the handle. That's all there is to it. Cork goes in, bottle goes underneath, line it up. You bring the handle down, you see the jaws, they close up. Cork goes in, bottle goes under. Let's go to a fast forward. And that's 25 corks and 25 bottles. Thanks for watching. Come again. Maybe we'll be doing something else next. Anyway, again, thanks for watching.